Hello everybody. So this is Black Angel again, and I'm here with a video about INTJ versus INFJ. This is not gonna last long. It's just about a thought that crossed my mind because a few days ago I watched a video on Facebook. It was one of my friends posting it, and this video was about this guy that was talking about how to pick a route that is faster when reaching wherever you want to go. So that would be pretty much like creating some sort of rule to get you somewhere. And on the spot, that kind of struck me like that must be TI. Then I listened to the whole thing, and I had to listen to it a couple of times, and I realized that as much as there was a lot of TI in there, it was not TI. How do you figure that out? You figure that out by realizing that there is no real explanation of the reason behind what is being said. That's when you're having to do with a TE type like an ENTJ or an ESTJ, INTJ or ISTJ, or with an FI type, ESFP, INFP, ENFP, ISFP. Those guys, they're going to tell you something and the reason why that thing is, but then when you go hear the explanation, especially if you're a TI type, you will realize that there is no real explanation. It is what it is, basically. And this guy was talking like 3 or 4 minutes, and he never actually gave a real explanation of why things should be that way. When in my mind, I was finding like 20 reasons for what he was saying, even if I didn't agree. So I realized that must be a TE user and not a TI user. So if that TI was that strong, so the logic was there, it must be a TI type, meaning a TE type, meaning either an ESTJ or an ENTJ or an INTJ or an ISTJ. Since this guy was talking about how to get from here to there and what process to follow, that's quite clear automatically. We're having to do with an NI user. That's what NI does. An ISTJ and an ESTJ are never going to be very comfortable about planning how to get from here to there, especially if you're talking about something abstract. Whenever we're talking about abstract and ideas, we are in the realm of intuition. So we are having to do with either an INTJ or an ENTJ. I decided that this guy must be an ENTJ, but I decided to make this video about INTJ versus INFJ because that makes things quite clearer. So introverted intuition is what these two concepts that I'm going to tell you in a moment have in common. That's an introverted intuition. That's what they have in common. So yeah, we know, as I said, that introverted intuition is about process. What does it mean? Cause and effect. So this thing happened because that thing happened, or this if I do this thing, that thing is going to follow. Like for example, if I put coffee in the coffee machine and I press the button, then I'm gonna get coffee. If there is water in the coffee machine, obviously. So cause, pushing the button, effect, getting the coffee. That's a process. Basically, everything that steps from pushing the button, that goes from pushing the button to getting the coffee, is intuition, the process, the idea behind it, not the mechanical thing, the thought, the idea of what you need to do to get there. What you apply introverted intuition to makes a difference about your type. So not all introverted intuitives are going to use introverted intuition for the same purpose. So if it is true that introverted intuition is cause and effect thinking, it is also true that different types apply to different things. So an INTJ is going to apply introverted intuition to something that is effective and efficient in the external world. What does it mean? People are obviously external world, but that's not what an INTJ is going to focus on. When we're talking about external world in terms of extrovert thinking, we're talking about how the external world is organized. So, how do I organize my paperwork so that I'm going to get it done until next week? How am I going to organize my studies so that I am finished for the day of the exam? How am I, in the most efficient way, obviously? How am I to organize my journey to Las Vegas if I want to be there in the most efficient way possible? That's what an INTJ does. Their idea of intuition is how to improve any kind of process. So their focus is on process, and they apply it to the external world and the organization of the external world. So whenever you hear always talking about how do I get there in the most efficient way, how do I do that the most efficient way, how do I take this thing and do it the most efficient way, that's an INTJ talking. You're not going to hear that very often. INTJs do not talk much, actually. What does an INFJ instead do? INFJ, on the other hand, does not apply intuition to that kind of concept. Well, they could, but they're not going to be very good at that. So they're not going to do that. That's not something an INFJ is going to focus on. What an INFJ focuses on is people. More specifically, people's emotions. So an INFJ is going to be interested in how people think and how people work. So INTJs, how does the external world work? INFJ, how do people's minds work? How do people work? So the thought process of an INFJ is going to wonder what is the best way to get that thing from that person, or rather, what is the best way to get that thing from any person. What matters for the INFJ is not much getting the result, as much as figuring out what the best working way is in the highest number of circumstances. So thought again is on the process and not much on the result or the effect on the external world. So the INFJ is going to be the freestyle pickup artist, so to speak, in this sense, because they are going to try and figure out the best, most efficient way to get to a person's heart. So this is something that I want to say. I don't think that INFJs are completely alien to the concept of efficiency, and this is very important because when you're going to read theory, you're going to figure out that efficiency is a concept that is applied to extrovert thinking. But whenever that kind of stuff happens, you need to step back a moment and ask yourself, why is this concept being applied to that thing, and what does this person actually mean when they are applying that concept to that thing? And the reason why efficiency is applied to extrovert thinking is that when they're talking about efficiency, they're talking about the marketing concept. So what they mean is efficiency in an external world organization kind of way. But efficiency can be, the concept of efficiency by itself can be applied to other things too. So it is possible for an INFJ to be unable to figure out why they should be alien to the concept of efficiency, since that's supposed to be their vulnerable, their weakest spot. So it's not like you're alien to the concept, it just you don't apply to that kind of field if you're an INFJ. So yeah, this is what I wanted to point out. I made a post today with a selfie where I was making the example with an ENTJ and an INFJ, talking about these concepts. The difference between the INTJ and the ENTJ is the ENTJ is actually interested in the result in the external world. So how their thought process actually influences the external world and how the external world influences the thought process. So focus is on the external world, whereas the INTJ, like I said, focus is on the process by itself. What's the best way to? Then maybe they're never going to do that. And similar thing happens for the INFJ. The INFJ is going to gather all the emotional data from people around them and figure out what the best way is to go around that kind of state of mind or that kind of emotional atmosphere to obtain whatever it is that they want to obtain. So to what's the best process to go from here to that to there by crossing that kind of emotional environment and achieving my goal. So like, how do I cheer a person that is being sad because someone they care about died? You obviously cannot just go that walk up to them and tell jokes. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you make people angry if you do that. So what's the best way? You just make them talk about something they care about, something that matters to them, that takes their mind off the idea of that person that they lost. So by distracting them from their main thought, then you can lead them slowly to actually having fun for some time. It's not going to last long, but that works with everybody. If you have someone that is particularly passionate about fishing, for example, you introduce the subject accidentally and indirectly, you lead the conversation to that topic, and from there you can move the emotional atmosphere to something a little bit lighter. I realized that it takes the ability to actually see the process and to actually see what is actually happening in the moment, to actually be able to follow the entire process to the goal, to the final goal. But that's how an INFJ thinks. That's what an INFJ's mind process is going to be. Figuring out what the best way is to go from here to there in an emotional environment. So yeah, I think I will close this here. I hope it helped, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.